This manuscript explores life, death, and what lies beyond, all through the lens of classical physics. This process of explanation will be a journey in itself. We'll take few steps at a time, then we'll pause, and then we'll take the next few steps. That's how we will develop the line of derivation, the line of thinking, and like that, we will end up discovering some of these truths that were lying in front of us all along. To take the first step, let's explore the energy self of us human beings. Let's start with an ECG, electrocardiogram. Let's start developing a visualization from there on. An interesting fact about ECG is that it can detect tiny electrical signals from our heart, even though the electricity involved is incredibly weak, about 1 millivolt. Now, when the heart rate increases, the PR interval shortens. The QT interval shortens too as the heart rate increases. Now, fast breathing, especially deep and rapid breathing known as hyperventilation, can lead to a higher heart rate. So, if we put these things together, deep and rapid breathing would change the heart rate, and changed heart rate would change the frequency of cardioelectrical activity. That's the reason stress test changes the ECG result. That's how even you can change or control your own cardioelectrical activity. Let's take a look at how circulatory system deals with the charges during the QRX complex part of the ECG. Please note, we are not discussing the polarization state of the heart here. We are focusing on transfer of charges or the flow of ions as it's occurring through the circulatory system. That's creating a current in the body through the circulatory system. At the stage of QRS complex, the fresh oxygenated blood flows from the heart to the vital organs and across the body. And around the same time, the bicarbonate rich impure blood flows from all vital organs to the heart for the next cycle of oxygenation process. These circulations create a few conductive loops as shown in this diagram. The ECG diagram detects the electric field created through these circulations of ions and show as the QRS complex part. And this flow of ions at this QRS complex stage keeps on repeating periodically, essentially creating a pulsating current flowing through the circulatory system of the human body. Now, if you forget about the ECG for the moment and just focus on the flow of ions through the circulatory system, it would look like this. Now, since the animation is developed on a 2D picture, it might not provide a clear view of the 3D depth of these loops. But you can feel these loops in your body if you're aware of the basic anatomy of human body. Now, let's even forget about the human body and let's try to visualize the flow of ions as it is passing through the circulatory system in a three-dimensional way. As we transform the transfer of charges into the notion of electricity flow, the resulting electricity flow would look like forming these loops of current as we are seeing in this picture now. Now, let's remember Maxwell's right hand grip rule. The conductor carrying current is forming loops like these. A magnetic field will be generated vertically and north will point upward. Now, let's apply this rule into our current carrying loops of circulatory system. As we apply this, we realize that a magnetic field will get developed vertically, and the magnetic field lines will begin from north poles of this magnet and will end at the south pole. Magnetic field lines would form closed loops and would extend outwards indefinitely. So a pulsating current results in a changing electric field. As the current pulsates, the electric field associated with the charge movement changes. According to Maxwell's equation, a time varying electric field generates a time varying magnetic field. Pulsating current would create an oscillating magnetic field around the conductor. Magnetic field lines would form closed loops around the current carrying conductor. The magnetic field would extend outwards indefinitely, though in practice it becomes weaker and weaker as the distance increases. So the strength of the magnetic field decreases with distance and typically would follow an inverse square law or something similar, some similar attenuation scenario. So putting all things together, this becomes the visualization of the energy self of human beings. If we would have gotten the eyes that could see extremely low frequency of electromagnetic waves, this is how we would have seen every human beings around us. All right, so we have achieved our first objective. We have got a visualization of the energy self of human beings. So we will end this session now. But before we end, here is an important reminder. Life is a beautiful and precious gift. It's so valuable that often the value is incomprehensible in the narrower context of few life experiences and situations. But it becomes comprehensible if the value of life is seen in much deeper and truer context. This effort attempts to capture that deeper and truer context for people who has scientific and logical bend of mind. The scientific elaborations here are basic in nature so that it becomes easier to comprehend. But the science behind life and beyond are much more intrinsic in nature, much more complex and subtle. So use these basic understandings to conceptualize the deeper and truer context of life. But please don't misuse these to carry out experiments on yourself or others. You and your conscience both are far more valuable than that. We will develop the line of thinking further in the subsequent sessions. Keep watching.